Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Grapplehook podcast. My name is Matt and I'm joined by Dan. How's it going, Dan?
Howdy. Very well, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. How was your time gone without the internet? You had a dark period, which is the reason why we're recording this podcast a day late.
I just drained all my data on my phone watching Dr. Disrespect.
So you weren't without the internet. You were
No, no 4G on my phone. So
and that's all you need.
Yeah, well, I can watch YouTube with 4G, can't I? So I didn't have internet access, but I had 4 gig of data that went to a good cause.
Ah, good. Well, I remember when you mentioned it to me, I imagined just sat in the house in pitch black with the candles going. That's what I visioned when you said that you had no internet. But clearly, wherever you go, you can take the dock with you.
Apparently, but I mean, my electricity and my internet aren't connected to each other. I do get one without the other, so.
No, well, I just assume that without internet, it just feels like you're going back in the dark ages, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to think what people did without the internet.
Just turn the lights off and
just go to bed, go to sleep.
That's what. Yeah. No comment.
There's just no point in existing without the internet. So
it is weird. Like, we are pretty dependable, aren't we, on internet?
Yeah, it's just crap. As soon as it's taken away from you, like whenever there's like a power cut or anything like that, it's literally like first 2 minutes and you're thinking, right, what do we do? What do we do?
It's a bit of a detox, though. At the same time, you kind of think like, do I need the internet? Obviously, there's a lot of things you can't do without it now, but
yeah.
I mean, I installed a pull-up bar during my downtime. I've got a pull-up bar now.
Nice.
My home sort of gym is coming together. So that was good. That was productive.
At least you did something productive. You didn't just cry or just go to sleep or go out for a walk or something.
No, the day was not wasted.
Okay, Jim, make some gains in some way or another.
Yeah. So, yeah, all good. Back good. Into the 21st century.
Well, welcome back. So, well, for everyone that's listening to the show, thanks for tuning in. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the Grapplehook podcast. We usually record on a Wednesday and publish on a Friday. As I said, we're slightly late today, but it's not going to change our upload schedule. We'll be out in the wild on Spotify or the podcast player of your choice from tomorrow, which is Friday. So if you want to reach out to the show, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on Twitter at MattroidVania, or you can reach out to Dan on Twitter, which is TatchND. So, Dan, what have you been playing?
I have been playing more Red Dead. I think I said I started that last week.
You're playing it on PC last time we spoke.
Yeah, well, I've only got it on PC. Well, I suppose I technically have it on Xbox, but I don't have one. But yeah, more of that. I'm not quite back to where I was on the Xbox. I'm probably, well, I've kind of done a few things that I didn't do on Xbox. I'm taking my time with it a bit more and sort of trying to do more of the quests and, in sort of investigate more of the world. And, I'm not in a rush to go anywhere. And I tell you, with that game, and I think it's one, with any Rockstar game, you can play them, for years and still discover new things. Things that you hadn't seen or discovered before, and it's the attention to detail which really like grabs me. For example, I was around the encampment, the encampment, the sort of the gang camp that sort of acts as your I don't know, like your sort of home base, your save location. You can sort of go there and get missions and whatnot, and you can craft various items and cook food and brew coffee and drinks and whatnot. And I brewed a coffee at the the campfire, and when he drinks the coffee, you can't drink it all in one go like you can a beer bottle.
You can't.
He sips it. I thought, wow, like actually, yeah, like that that makes sense because if you had a cup of coffee, you wouldn't just chug it because you'd burn your tonsils, like So I thought like how amazing, and it just it gets you thinking like what else can what else can I do and what else can I sort of test here and sort of see that I've not seen before and do you know what I mean? It's just it's an experience that no matter how many times you play it, you're always rediscovering things or rather discovering new things.
Yeah, I think that game does it particularly well. In terms of Rockstar games, they've always had loads going on, but with Red Dead Redemption 2, the way one thing that always blew my mind was just how the characters interact with Arthur. When you walk into the campsite, you can just select someone and just talk to them, and
Yeah,
it'll be very rare that you'll hear, you won't hear the same conversation twice, the same prompt twice. It'll always be a new conversation, and you'll talk to someone, you'll be like, Lenny, and that'll be it. And then like the next day you'll go and do the exact same prompt, talk to Lenny again, and there'll be a full-blown conversation this time. And you're thinking, where on earth has this come from?
yeah,
It just constantly keeps giving. And the amount of time they must have spent on that game, putting all those little details in, crafting those conversations, it must have just been, a real passion project.
yeah. Well, I sent I made like a little clip of the sort of gang singing in the camp. I sent that to sent a clip of that
Oh
to
yeah.
my girlfriend, and she made the comment that how much fun they must have had making that game. It's so true. You can just imagine them sat in the the capture studio, sat around the table, and they've I don't know, like they've got like a fake guitar, and the sat round with fake bottles of beer, and all in their
Yeah.
mocap suits, singing and drinking and having a good time, and definitely definitely would love to have seen the sort of the behind the scenes recordings of that game. It's yeah, it is
Yeah.
special. And a lot of people regard it as really the best game of this generation. So I sort of feel that I owe it to myself to to finish this game. Not 100%. I'm not interested in doing like all like the side quests
No, no.
and discovering everything in the game. Like I'm sort of past that point with open
Yeah.
world games, unless it's like
Yeah.
Spider-Man, which I did sort of 100%. But no, like yeah,
Well, I think
I'm gonna
Spider-Man's a
get
bit
around to it.
realistic, isn't it, to do that? Spider-Man, there's, the platinum goal isn't too far away. Whereas you
Yeah,
look at the Red Dead Redemption, that world is just so vast, and there's all the other bits that you've got to do as well. So
yeah, and I mean I put a lot of hours into the multiplayer as well, but before playing the single player on the PC. So I sort of played quite a bit the single player on the Xbox. The multiplayer wasn't out at that point, and I didn't really jump in when it went into beta. I
yeah,
didn't really hear good things. I wasn't really interested in it. And then when it came out on PC, I didn't really play the single player at all. I just jumped straight into the multiplayer, and I got to about level 200 or something. So I really hammered it, And I think once I'd sort of burn out on the multiplayer, the idea of going back to the single player and starting again with crappy guns and exploring the world that I've already been running around for the last sort of 3 or 4 months, it didn't really appeal to me. But I feel like I've sort of left it long enough now. Probably stopped playing the multiplayer about, I want to say, about sort of January, February, this year. um
yeah.
and I've left it about several months, so I'm sort of now sort of at a point where it the map is still very familiar, but it's sort of long enough where it sort of still feels fresh, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, exactly. It's so vast, and like you say, it's always going to feel fresh when you go out there because there's going to be new interactions. Even when you jump on a horse and you think, right, I'm going to go to the local town. I'm going to go to this place, and you go over to it. You'll be distracted by little things that happen on the
yeah.
way there.
Oh
Like you'll
yeah, yeah,
see things pop up on the map. You'll see random encounters with someone's like, "Help me, please," and you're thinking, should I help this person, or is it a setup or something like that? So, and
yeah,
it's those little incidents that that make the world seem alive, and that's really hard for open world games to sometimes do, where the games like that fall apart when you can see the strings behind
Yeah,
the
moving
game and how it's
parts.
been
Yeah,
put together. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's what Assassin's Creed struggled with initially. Obviously, Assassin's Creed was like, wow, it's a big open world, but then you're like, hang on a minute, you're looking down the street and there's four exactly the same
yeah,
NPCs walking down the street.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's that it's that variety that that I think that's what creates the immersion, and not being able to kind of predict the patterns of NPCs or you know with Assassin's Creed, it's like if you're staying in an area long enough, you'll kind of see animations start to repeat, and you'll see people start to kind of follow a path. And with Red Dead, it's a bit more sort of a bit more varied. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
in terms of the world, and it feels more alive. It feels more organic, and I think that's that's. I mean, obviously, Rockstar have built themselves up on making these kinds of worlds, and they've just gotten better from one game to the next.
yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
so yeah, Red Dead, and what else have I been playing? I played a little bit more God of War. I feel like that's the sort of I felt guilty when we
Nice.
did our top 5 list, and I sort of didn't even mention it because I haven't really played it. I sort of carried on from where I'd sort of got to on the. I think I've sort of tried playing it a couple of times, and the second time I went back to it, I completely restarted, and this essentially is my third time going back to it, and I've just carried
Oh
on
no.
because it's not for any particular reason, but this time around I've continued with where I'd got to because it wasn't too long ago where I'm thinking like what am I doing and what quest am I on, and essentially I'm at the bit
Oh yeah.
where obviously the game starts off and you kind of have to go and take your wife's ashes to the top of the mountain. That sort of feels like the first kind of main objective, and
Hmm.
I have got to a bit where you start sort of you start going between realms and you start moving the bridge, and I've sort of discovered that there's I don't know like a dozen realms that that you can go to, and this kind of bridge hub thing is how you go from one realm to the other. So I've kind of just gone to the first realm and I'm trying to get some light to light up a bridge or something like that. Like there's like black smoke on a path to the mountain and I can't get past it until I've got this light or something. So
Right. Yeah.
that's what I'm doing at the moment. But
Oh yeah. So you're still quite early on, aren't you?
oh
So
yeah. Still early. Yeah. But yeah, no. Again, it's sort of one of these games where I guess it kind of gives you the perception of this sort of open world environment. I don't know how much or how open it is, but I don't necessarily have aspirations of platinum. I just want to enjoy the story and get through it. And I'm starting to get to grips with like the combat and stuff like that, and I'm really enjoying the the combinations and the abilities that you unlock as you play.
yeah.
I realized, and I must not have noticed, but when I went back to it this time, I was sort of I took time to kind of read through like the journal just to kind of bring myself up to speed with where I'd been and what I'd done. And I was looking
Oh
at
yeah.
like the skill trees and stuff, and I had something like 5,500 unspent XP
Oh
for,
god.
for skills, and I was like, oh, okay. And I started unlocking like things, and I've got like 5 new moves I can do and chain them together and stuff. But yeah, it's good. Obviously, it's a lot of people think it's like the best game ever made, so I'm sort of expecting big things from it. But yeah, bit more
Yeah.
of that.
No. Fantastic. Really, really good. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I look forward to hearing your update next week and
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
got up to in that one. Should be
Um,
good.
but yeah, like sort of in my sort of downstairs gaming area, I've now got a recliner in there as well, so that's kind of opened the
All
doors
right.
for playing more PlayStation. Because like up here in like the sort of study studio area, I sort of find like if I'm working here during the day, the idea of then sitting down to play games here for the rest of the evening, it's not as, do you know what I mean? It sort of feels like I'm too trapped in one place. But now that I've got the PS4 down there and the big TV and a recliner and stuff, it's nice because I can go down there and kick back on the PlayStation for a bit and that's why I'm starting to play more of the games, more of the backlog.
Yeah, there's plenty to get through, isn't there?
Yeah, I've got a few. I'm not going to get through all of them before PS5, but I'll get through the big ones.
Well, the good news is when you get your PS5, you'll have the PlayStation Plus collection, which will be all those games that you might not have got around to, which will all be included for free as part of your PlayStation Plus membership. So you'll get like you'll get Days Gone, you'll get
Well,
Last of Us Remastered.
I have
Obviously,
that digitally anyway, but yeah.
oh right, yeah. So there's
Yeah.
plenty of options to play. So at least we know those games are backwards compatible because PlayStation, they've said, Sony, they've said that 99% of the games on PS4 are going to be backwards compatible. So we don't know what that 1% is yet. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, I can't imagine it's going to be like any mainstream game. It'll probably be some
I think
random indie game.
I think it's one of those statistics where they kind of just say, do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like hand wash kills 99% of germs. Like we're just protecting ourselves. Like we're pretty sure it kills all the germs, but there might be a chance that it doesn't kill one of them, you know. And I think I guess that's what they're saying with PlayStation. Like we're pretty sure all of them work, but there might be one
Yeah.
that doesn't. So
I think what'll be interesting is there's a game on PlayStation 4 which is notorious for being the worst game on the console. It's called Life of Black Tiger, and it is absolutely horrendous. It looks like a PS2 game. The frame rate is terrible. You play as a tiger. I don't even know how it even got past like Sony's quality bar or anything like that. The Jim Sterling gave it a review, and he gave it a 1 out of 10 and said Life of Black Tiger is a massive piece of fucking shit. Also, it has multiplayer. So that was the review. So I'd be quite keen to see if that makes it to PS4 5, because if that is backwards compatible, then that means there is another game out there that didn't make it, but this one did. So you'd be gutted if you were that studio that was just like, oh, come on, why are we not on the PS5? You know, but this game is.
yeah. As long
I
as
mean, have you seen this game before?
I haven't. No, I've never even heard of it.
It's. I know we were joking a while ago about trying to set each other up to play terrible games, but I don't even think I could be that cruel and set you up to play this game. It is just that bad. It is widely seen on the internet as the worst PS4 game of all time. So that'd be definitely one to check out.
Well, it's not anywhere near the top of the list, but I'll maybe YouTube it as a as an experiment. But yeah, no, I've got plenty of PS4 games to play, and I'm even debating with Cyberpunk cancelling my pre-order on PC and getting it on the PlayStation so I can play it on the big TV. So
Nice.
sort of debate, because I know it's not like obviously at launch it's not the fully fledged kind of next gen Cyberpunk version. It's just a slightly enhanced. You know, it'll look and play a little bit better, maybe load a bit quicker. But you know, I'm sort of just again I'm just thinking like that kind of game. Do I want to be playing that in a in a sort of gaming chair behind a desk on a 23-inch monitor, or do I want to kick back behind like a 55-inch TV and lay down in a recliner and just roam around Night City? I'm leaning toward that, leaning toward the ladder. But
well, it's funny you say that, because I was umming and ahhing also about picking up the game and getting it at launch, but I've decided to push my purchase back until there's a native version on the new console, just simply because it's kind of like, I know I've got tons of stuff to play already, so it's not like, whilst I'm really excited for the game, it's not like I'm going to be short of things to play and catch up on. And it's like, well, seeing that I've got all this stuff to play and I've got plenty of time to do it, I might as well wait until the fully fledged Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 version comes out and play on that version instead, because by then, you can imagine there's going to be things like ray tracing in there. The game's going to look better. It's probably going to perform better because it's going to be on the newer consoles. And by that point, who knows, they may have already released DLC for it, which means that you might be able to get like the complete Game of the Year edition or complete edition all in one package. So I can't imagine it being too much longer after the November release date. I think they've said that it's going to be released sometime in 2021. So it could be Q1 or Q2. before they release
Yeah.
the PS5 version or Xbox Series
We'll
X. I
see.
can't imagine it being long because
Yeah.
they've got the PC version. So all it's not like the Xbox Series X version is going to have many unique or even any unique features for that console really compared to PC, because the PC version is going to have ray tracing on. It's going to have 4K resolution. It's going to look
Yeah.
fantastic on PC if you've got the graphic card to run it. So I can't imagine why the
Well,
new next gen
that's the
consoles don't have
crazy
those
thing.
features.
That's the crazy thing. Like the specs, the PC I have now meets all of the specs. The only thing I don't have is ray tracing with my graphics card. But in terms of
Yeah,
like the specs, like it recommends like a 1060. I think it's like an i7 4700K. It recommends like 16 gig of RAM. Like when they announced the specs like a few weeks ago, I was absolutely stunned. I was like, oh, like okay. Like I'm definitely I could definitely run it on Ultra on the PC,
yeah,
but my sort of feeling is comfort, and a game like that, I can't imagine not playing it on a 4K 55-inch television. Like
yeah. It's gonna
one
look
of those
much better
games.
on there, isn't it? And
Uh,
they're bringing out the multiplayer later, aren't they? So the
I'm
multiplayer
not
might be
bothered
something to
about
play
it.
on PC. But well,
Yeah.
I'm not. But it's I said that about The Last of Us, and then The Last of Us multiplayer was just loads of fun to play. So I wouldn't go out and buy The Last of Us to play multiplayer, but
I, I'm
as
not
an additional add-on.
I'm not saying I wouldn't play it, and I think I'll be more interested or less interested in it when there's more information. Like if it was,
Yeah,
like if it's like a legit, like this is it's the same single player world but with multiplayer immersion. Like hell yes, I am 100%
yeah,
down. I'm all the way in. But if it's like, oh, this is kind of like it's cyberpunk, but it's just kind of set scenarios and it's tethered, gameplay or like restricted worlds. Not interested, not even remotely. So I
mm,
need more information before I get hyped about about the multiplayer. But for me, the playing the single player, that's what that's what I want it for. And regarding your sort of sentiment, waiting till a next gen version, hell no, hell no. I don't have that kind of constraint. Like there's some games where I can exercise that level of constraint with, but Cyberpunk's essentially been in the making for like the last 8 years, and I'm all in on like that,
yeah.
that synth wave, that sort of new retro wave, retro futuristic, whatever you want to call it, like just that entire theme, that world. I mean, we talk about about Dr. Disrespect before we started streaming, and his sort of character, that world. I can't really describe it, but well, cyberpunk, the cyberpunk genre is like a
Yeah.
genre in and of itself. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
there's
definitely.
zero chance I'm waiting for that. Day one,
No,
midnight, I'll be up.
the thing is that's with it coming so close to the console's launch when it
The
comes
day it comes
out,
out,
there's
November 19th.
there's if you think about it, there's also going to be like Spider-Man Miles Morales. There's going to be plenty of other stuff that's going to be able to occupy your time. So ultimately, something is going to give, unless you've got like 5 games on the go at once, which is going to take up all your time.
I'm
So, but
planning on three at
juggling them
launch.
across.
Well, not juggling, but like I think having 3 games at launch on a console, you've got enough variety there. I'm definitely getting Miles Morales. I'm almost certain I'm going to get the Cyberpunk on the PS4, PS5, and then we'll sort of see about a third one. But almost definitely those two, I would have said.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So they're going to be your first purchase on the console that you'll have day one or near enough day one.
Well, Cyberpunk's scheduled for November 19th, and the PlayStation here comes out November 19th. So if if my order comes to fruition and I get it on launch day, which, fingers crossed I do, then I think, yeah, I think that makes sense. I'll have a couple of games to melt away on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we're now well aware you're getting the PS5 at launch. I'm going to get the Series X at launch, which is quite good
Yeah.
actually, because it means that we've got different perspectives to bring to the podcast going forward, which would be good. But the two games I'm going to be picking up for launch for the Xbox Series X is going to be the Ascent, which is a cyberpunk style twin stick shooter, which just looks amazing, and Scorn, which is a first person horror game that looks really, really grim, which I'm really looking forward to. So, but there's obviously in the initial lineup when it comes out, it's clear that the PlayStation 5's got the best launch lineup in terms of great games. I mean, I think the best looking game across all consoles has to be Demon Souls Remaster. It just looks absolutely immense. It looks absolutely incredible.
Which
And
ironically,
you've got
well, not ironically, but coincidentally, that's the one game I'm not interested in playing on the PlayStation.
no. There's a
So.
difference between what it looks and how it plays. I mean, you already know when you play. I'm not a fan of Souls games, so I probably wouldn't enjoy that one. I know I wouldn't, but it looks fantastic. It kind of reminded me of what that game looked like when it was teased. Can you remember that Deep Down that was being published by Capcom? It was shown off
Yeah.
at the PlayStation 4 launch event, I think, Tokyo Game Show, and then
Yes.
I
Yeah, I
haven't
do
seen
remember
anything
it.
since.
Yeah.
It's just been completely wiped off the face of the earth. So it gave me those vibes, which is great. But that game looked fantastic as well. So
Yeah. And to be honest, it's funny. Like I've completely forgotten about that game until you reminded me.
Deep Down,
Less than a couple of months before the generation ends. But yeah,
oh
I do
nuts.
remember. I do remember that. Because it had like a really kind of grungy, almost like co-op, like underground sort of boss fight survival gameplay, didn't it? If I remember rightly, it was kind of sort of that was kind of the feeling I got. Like that game, I think it was Lost Planet, where you fight sort of big monsters in like the frozen, I don't know, frozen worlds and wherever,
Yeah.
but it's like an underground, sort of. That's what it looked like to me from that initial trailer, years and years and years ago. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know
No,
why
it looked
I
fantastic.
never looked into it.
It
It's a
disappeared.
shame.
So
Yeah. Oh well. Maybe it'll come back for, I don't know, PlayStation or whatever.
I doubt them. I think when games go silent for that long, it's usually a bad sign. And then they kind of said it was going to be free to play and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what happened. So
I tell you what, I would be absolutely 100% like. Have you ever seen that South Park GIF of Randy behind the computer? If you've seen it, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like if they, so keep that image in mind. If they announced the Getaway 3, or if they
yeah.
brought that back, if they brought the Getaway back, it didn't even have to be Getaway 1, 2, or 3. Like if they just brought that IP back, the Getaway, like that would be
Yeah.
like,
What a game series.
Getaway 1, or the Getaway and the Getaway Black Monday, I think it was called, on the PS2 way
Yeah,
back
that's it. Yeah.
when. Those games were absolutely amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Well, who was it? Studio London that made them.
Team
They're now
Soho.
kind of they're now kind of throwing in making PSVR games. However, and they made some like the cheesy ones, or ones that are like a bit gimmicky. But they released that Blood and Truth, which is meant to be absolutely phenomenal, and that had like real getaway vibes to it. Of course, it's PlayStation VR, but it's kind of the gangster London
Yeah.
first-person shooter
Yeah.
in VR, and it's meant to be probably one of the best PlayStation VR games. Just the sad thing is, it's on PlayStation VR, which the attach rate on that compared to that people that own consoles, I think they sold 2 million units of PlayStation VR, and there are over 110 million PS4s in the wild.
Yeah.
So the tiny amount of those PlayStation players be able to play that. So, which is a shame. I think having something like the Getaway 3 would be just fantastic. That would be a absolute game changer.
Oh, it'd be. I'm biased when I say this, but that would be like that. That would be bigger than, say, the Bethesda news, which was huge. Like if they announced like, "Oh, we'll bring the Getaway back," and it's a PlayStation exclusive, I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, okay."
Oh,
Like, I
oh,
mean,
it's just awesome.
it's just, yeah. Oh God, I really want to play that game again. but then I don't want to like,
Yeah.
sort of mess with nostalgia and, sort of ruin because in my head, like it's this legit like next gen experience. It's London. It's, it's real life graphics. There's no HUD. If you, there's no mini map when you turn it. It's an indicator on the car instead of a line on a virtual map. It just, the game it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah, I feel like you need to kind of stay away from it because those
Yeah,
rose tinted glasses in
yeah,
the kind of positive feelings that you've got, it's so bad when you go back to a game that you really enjoyed and you go back to it and you think, what the hell, this game's like unplayable now, or it just doesn't feel the same way, and it won't do. It won't do because it's so old, and they're not going to look the same, not going to play very well. That's what people complain a lot about the old Resident Evil games, where they had tank controls and people, by today's standards, couldn't even play those games. They just couldn't even control them.
yeah.
So
But then saying that, I've
something,
gone back to Metal Gear Solid on the PC recently, and that is just as good as I remember it. So
yeah.
you
Well,
never
I
know.
don't think that controls any differently, really. So, in fact, I was thinking about that. Of course, that's on GOG.
Yeah,
How on earth do you do the whole Psycho Mantis fight on
haven't
PC?
got to that bit yet. That
Oh, that'd be
I'm
interesting.
literally about to go to Psychomantis. I've just fought Ninja in the sort of control room before meeting
Yeah,
Honeycomb. So Psychomantis is next on the
interesting.
list, but
I wonder what you'll have to do. That'd be really key. That'd be interesting. Because I played through it recently on the Vita, and the Vita, because it's emulating it through the PS1.
yeah,
You literally just press the button, hold the PlayStation button down, and then swap controller, because it's
yeah,
emulating the PlayStation. So that
yeah.
that one was a bit easier. So
Yeah, because there's a bit in the game where you're speaking to Campbell on the codec, and he tells you, "Oh, look, you got to call Meryl. Her codec code is on the CD case." And it's like, I don't have the CD case, but I remembered her codec code. 140
nice.
14015. I didn't forget. I didn't forget. So, I don't know if I can
No,
remember all of them, but I certainly remembered her codec. So yeah,
yeah,
that was
that's
funny.
good.
So yeah, I
Very
will.
good.
I'll let you know if I get to the Psychomantis battle before next week. I'll let you know how that goes. To be honest, that's kind of been like the shadow hanging over me while I've been playing through it. I've been thinking like, oh, I really don't want to get to Psychomantis because I don't want the game to just suddenly die because I can't beat him. I can't put my PlayStation controller into a new port on my PC.
No, it'll probably make you play WASD on the keyboard if you've been playing with the controller or vice versa. So
Maybe. They must have
maybe
thought
we'll see
about
how
it.
that goes. Yeah, they couldn't just release it. Although it's Konami, so who knows? They could have just
Yeah,
shit that game out on PC and be like, there you go. Someone's gonna have to mod it in for you to be able to play it.
yeah. So so today Fall Guys Season 2 came out.
Oh yeah.
So I played a little bit of that, not too much. Yeah, I mean it's obviously it's more of the same thing. I didn't really sort of look too much into what exactly was coming with this update, but it's sort of basically it's another 40 level battle pass, which will obviously unlock new content, new cosmetics, various things, and 4 new stages. Which I must admit, at first I was a little underwhelmed. I was thinking it was going to be like all of the old stages are going, and we're going to get loads of new stages with new themes and stuff. And
Right.
in reality, and I think it was a Twitter comment or a Reddit post that I read that said, in reality, look, Mediatonic are a small studio. You can't expect them to just release 18 new stages. The game's
No.
barely been out. And I thought, well, actually, okay, well, like with that perspective in mind, yeah, my expect my expectations perhaps should have been, sort of uh, sort of minimalized a little bit. And
Yeah.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm going to play it. I'm going to, I'm not going to leave it quite as late to sort of get through the through the battle passes this time, because I certainly had to put some time in these last couple of weeks to get there. But yeah, Fall Guys is Fall Guys. It's carnage, it's jelly beans throwing themselves around, and it's basically, last one standing wins. It is what it is. I think people know what it is by this point, but
It's a simple premise, but it's fun, and
they're
it's
just
fun at
quick.
nauseum as well.
Yeah, they're just quick games. It's easy to play. You can pick it up, play it, put it down 10 minutes later, and think nothing of it. So it's good to have those kind of games around. You're not sort of trapped for hours. But
Yeah, well, that's it. It's just one of these. It's kind of like junk food, and not in a bad way. It's kind of like, sometimes where you want to sit down and have a steak dinner or Sunday roast dinner, and take time prepping it and pig out on that. And sometimes you just want something that's quick and easy. You don't have to mess around cooking. You can have it, eat it, be full, and then be on your way, sort of thing. So
yeah,
that's how I always seen those type of games, which is it's good. Sometimes you need those ones. Sometimes you're like, right, I've got an hour to play. I don't want to sit and get stuck halfway through the story of God of War and having to pause it and then leave it and things like that. So
yeah. So yeah,
nice.
How about yourself? What have you been cracking on with?
So I've fallen further down the rabbit hole with Destiny. So I'm still playing through that on PS4. Like I mentioned a few weeks back, I got the collection a few years ago and never played it. So I'm now actually getting through it. I've just finished the last DLC, not the last DLC. I've just finished the Taken King, which I've got to say that DLC was just phenomenal. Probably the best part of Destiny I've played so far. My initial complaint with Destiny was that it did the same thing as Halo. It didn't really have a story, or it had stories, but you had to read through them and the Grimoire cards and things like that. Whereas this is the first bit of DLC that's actually felt like a bit of premium content, where there's like an amazing Activision, not Activision, like a Blizzard style cutscene. So obviously Blizzard, when they release cutscenes for Diablo, or when they release cutscenes for Overwatch, they look fantastic. Or even World of Warcraft, they literally look like they've been plucked from a movie. And this this DLC is the first DLC out of all of Destiny where you start playing it and literally there's an amazing cutscene to open. There's cutscenes throughout. You actually get to know the characters, and there's a bit more depth to it. And the story is really, really good. The combat is great. And obviously, it's a really old game now. The Taken King came out 2015, so I quite comfortably spoil this bit if no one's played the original Destiny. But there's a part where I was actually blown away in the DLC, and it almost did a. Thinking about the last time a game did this, it throws me back to when I played Metal Gear Solid, and there's the first Metal Gear Solid, and obviously you've played Metal Gear Solid tons of times, haven't you? You absolutely love the first game.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously there's that scene where you're in the elevator, you're in the lift.
Yeah.
And
the stealth.
That happens. And you're like, oh my God, and the game kind of throws you out, or mission failed, fish and mailed, sorry, in Metal Gear Solid 2. And those kind of things where the game plays out like it should do, and then it takes a step back and kind of breaks the walls of the game. And there's a bit at the end of a mission in the Taken King where you have to get this gem or whatever, and you get the gem, and the guy, the voiceover in the game goes like, right, head on home and things like that, and the game comes up with a mission complete screen, and it's a timer that ticks on the left, and then all of a sudden that just completely fades away, and then there's radio static, and the ghost is like, I can't reach out to her, I can't hear anyone, and then you see the boss guy, and the guy goes, run, get out of there, and you're thinking, what? I thought the level was over, I thought it was done, and the music kicks in. It's just such an amazing experience. I remember just like sprinting out of this area, all these enemies are spawning in and trying to take you out, and it completely changed. Obviously I was expecting pretty much just to chill out, wait 30 seconds, the game ends, and then I get the end of mission summary, and it completely threw all out the window, and almost kind of like pulled the rug from underneath it. And since that point, I was expecting something like that to happen again for the rest of the DLC. So I was well impressed. The DLC is really good. So obviously I'm just starting now the Rise of Iron, which is the last piece of Destiny DLC. And then I'm done. I've done Destiny, and I'll move on to Destiny 2. But I've got to say, I can't believe I left it this long to play Destiny. I'm absolutely loving it. The gunplay is great. The story is gripping me now. The RPG elements are are better than I thought they were when I first played it. And there seems to be a lot more content, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to do any of the raids. I'm not going to do any of the strikes on Destiny. But I know Destiny 2 is going to be ported to Series X. So when I get the Series X in my hand, I'll probably move on to Destiny 2. All the DLC at the moment is currently on Game Pass, so I've already got it all there. So there's plenty of content for me to get involved with. So, but no, really enjoying that. Did you play much of the first Destiny?
I didn't. I got it at launch. I finished the initial campaign, and I'm pretty sure I stopped playing it before the first expansion. I remember the sort of the Taken King kind of coming out, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard, when you sort of think like, sort of retrospectively, like, why didn't I play that game? I mean, the obvious answer is I was playing something else.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
What was I playing? I have no idea.
No.
Really
Well,
can't remember, but I was playing something else. My sort of Destiny time really is Destiny 2. I went really hard on Destiny when it came out. Did the initial launch raid, and then
Yep.
when the Curse of the Osiris came out, I did that raid as well. And then I kind of stopped after that. But
Yeah.
yeah, no. I mean, I love the like the sort of the campaign of Destiny 2 and the storytelling, and I've done all the well, I say I stopped after that. I've done all of the campaigns up to the most recent expansion. I think Shadow Blade or whatever. I forget the name, but is it Shadowbringers? What's it called? Something Destiny
The
2.
DLC, so the Shadow Keep, that's the latest one.
Shadow Keep. There we go. Yeah. So I've done the campaign of Shadow Keep, and all of the expansions. But yeah, I don't know. Like with Destiny, I kind of for like the last couple of years, it seems like I've gone back to Destiny when they've done the Solstice events.
Right, okay.
The Solstice event is like a celebration of the Guardians, and I don't know, it lasts for a few weeks, a month, whatever it might be. And there's armor sets for each of the three classes that you have to, sort of complete certain objectives to unlock certain pieces of armor, and you level it up through this event. The event's fine, like I enjoy it, and I think they've done two, no, they've I think 2 or 3 years of these Solstice events, and I've kind of
Right.
gone really hard on the Solstice event, done all of the armor, got the got the full set, and then stopped playing it, and then gone back for the next Solstice event, done all the armor, stopped playing it, and then I did go
Yeah.
back to it for the most recent one, which was only like a month or two ago. And now I've stopped playing it again. But it's I don't know. It's because it's for all intents and purposes, it's an MMO, isn't it? And there's
Yeah.
a constant stream of objectives, and I find the problem with me and MMOs is I don't know when to stop. I just go, I go hard, but the thing is, and I only play that game. I'll only play that one game. I mean, you saw me with Final Fantasy 14. We've not really talked about the Final Fantasy 14 experience on the podcast, but like I went hard on that
There
game.
was quite a few hours that you dived in there, wasn't there?
Over 1,000. I would say easily over 1,000. And I find that the issue I have is that when I play those types of games like Destiny or World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy or whatever, is that I really enjoy playing them, but I'm not playing other games as a result of them. And that's kind of like a two-ended, sort of, that there's pros and cons to that. And the backlog that I've got on the PlayStation 4 is because of MMOs.
Yeah. I think I would have had the same issue if I played it like a MMO, because I've played the full Destiny 1 game by myself.
You just
I've
played
not
the
played.
campaign,
I've not done any. And for me at the moment, it just feels like an RPG, a sci-fi RPG. Whereas I do see the glimmers of the MMO there, where you kind of see that once you hit max level, level 40, then it becomes about leveling your gear and getting the right gear and upgrading the gear using things like legendary marks and things like that, which I'm looking at that and thinking, oof, that's going to be a rabbit hole to fall down, and maybe that's not the place I want to go. So, but yeah, I'm not kicking myself so much, but because I finally got round to it and stuff. But I'm really enjoying Destiny, and I want to say Destiny 1 came out in 2014, so I'm only 6 years late to the
Yeah.
party. But it still looks great, still plays great, and I can't wait to get to Destiny 2. So
Well, they've already said that there's not going to be a Destiny 3 now. Like it is just Destiny 2. Like we're just going to keep adding to this, and it's just this sort of live service, continuous installment. And I think the other cool thing is they've said that they're going to, they're going to be introducing a lot more like lore into the game. Because I think previously, maybe not so much in Destiny 1, I don't know, but the general feedback with Destiny 2 is a lot of the really interesting lore of the game is locked behind the raids and doing the raids.
yeah,
And a lot of people don't do the raids or, don't ever get exposed to this content. I think I read or heard something that the plans moving forward is that they want to turn Destiny into kind of like a World of Warcraft experience where they, sort of bring life to the story and the characters and the lore of the world, in the game, through, I don't know, through quests and NPCs and stuff like that. So be interesting to see how that
yeah.
all comes together and what their plans are. But I personally don't have any intentions of going back to Destiny anytime soon, but all
No,
power to
exactly.
you. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that. So obviously that's Destiny's been taking up probably the majority of my time. I've also dipped into Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice on PC,
Oh
which
God.
is absolutely superb. That game, it's
God.
absolutely superb. It's not a happy game. It's not. It's
No,
not a
it's
happy
not.
game. It's not a pleasant game, but it's a gripping game. Obviously you boot up the game, and the first thing it mentions in on the first page of the game, it
Yeah,
loads up like a warning, basically, kind of saying that
yeah,
it's it has an inclusion of psychosis, how they've actually
yeah,
spoken to psychiatrists and people who suffer from psychosis to make it a realistic element of the
yeah,
game. And then it says we recommend that you play it with headphones on. So you play it with headphones on. It's set in a kind of it's set in inspired by Norse mythology and like
yeah,
Celtic culture, and it kind
yeah,
of merges them all together. And you play as Senua, who, clearly there's something there which she suffers from psychosis, and when you've got the headphones on, you hear different voices talking to you, and the 3D sound element of that's fantastic. You kind of you hear basically you play Senua words, you hear voices in the head, and that's kind of how you're there to perceive it. And it looks fantastic. It's kind of got a mixture between puzzle elements where you've got to find there's doors that have runes on them, and you have to find a basically be able to make out a similar looking rune in the same area. So you line two objects together to make the rune, and then that once you've done that, the door opens. And then it's got a combat element which is pretty good. It's not a very difficult combat mechanic. It's like a bit of almost like a bit of a dumbed down Devil May Cry, that type of thing, or Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is one of Ninja Theory's other games that they did. But the big caveat with this game is that every time you start the game and you become almost like infected in a way, and every time you die, the infection grows, and if it reaches your brain, that's it, game over. Your
yeah.
save data deletes itself,
And
and that kind of really put me off.
that
I was like,
that
oof.
that was the moment I uninstalled it.
Oh,
When it said like, you know, when you die, and like there's basically this kind of behind the scenes like kind of time limit to the game in effect. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I was on the fence trying it, but then when they sort of said like, yeah, and if you die, like basically your entire progression gets deleted. Yeah, I'm good. See you.
yeah. Well, I've got to say, I'm not finding it particularly difficult. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
playing the difficulty on the game is set to auto, so of course, the better that I play, the tougher it will
Mm.
become. And there have been a I played through the first area. There's like an area and then there's like that you've got to take out this boss, in this area, and I didn't die through any of that. Got to the boss, had a tough fight, but didn't die again, and came back and been close to dying a couple of times, but still haven't died. But I love the soundtrack, the premise, I love the Norse mythology and the kind of, that's why I absolutely adored God of War, the remake, or the reboot. So
Yeah.
this is great to be able to play a bit more Norse mythology, and then who knows, maybe I'll take the plunge with Assassin's Creed, or maybe I'll just wait until the second God of War comes out. But yeah,
Yeah.
really enjoying that, and I think it's just it's nice when game companies do something different when it comes to like taking something like Psychosis and actually making it a game element, and do it in a way that's actually respectful of people that have that condition, and
Yeah.
make it, you go into the start of the game, it tells you why they did it, who they interacted with, and if you suffer from psychosis, where you can get help, and the gameplay it kind of almost gives you a perspective that you might not otherwise know what psychosis is like for somebody, and it's great. There's like you'll do bits where you walk and you take the wrong turn, and the voices beat you down, and there's one voice in there that is helping you along the way, but it's drowned out by 99 different voices trying to throw you under a bus. So it's good. It's confusing, but it's really good, and it looks great. And of course, there's a sequel coming out for that, which
Yeah.
is Xbox Series X exclusive next
Good.
year, I think. So, well, you don't want to play it, so.
Yeah,
But
no,
what a game!
I think if I'd have been more into the game, then I would have been like, okay, like the mechanic of like progression being erased is secondary. Because I'm already bought into the game, the story, the world. But when I started playing it, I found it so weird, and obviously that's intentional. Like it's like you say, it's based on a condition, and obviously people have to live with these horrible horrible things. But I think when I play games, it's primarily for entertainment, and
Yeah,
when I was playing that game, I just wasn't enjoying myself. I wasn't sort of entertained by the game that I was playing, and obviously I don't know very much about it, but the sense that I get is that it's not necessarily a game to be enjoyed, but a game to be experienced. And
yeah,
that's where I kind of draw the line, where like I've got to be interested in the subject matter and the theme and the feel of the game. If, entertainment is secondary to experience, and with that game, I just wasn't, unfortunately wasn't into it, but
yeah. And I think is, like, for example, I remember Neil Druckmann said that when he was making The Last of Us Part 2, that the game wasn't fun. And that game isn't fun, but I suppose the thing about The Last of Us Part 2, which that game's probably, for you, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth here, but obviously the main appeal to playing that game is that you want to see what happens to the characters because you're so invested in them from the first one, whereas playing a new game and that's the first thing you open with, you're like, well, I don't really know much about this character and I don't really want to because it's not fun.
yeah,
Whereas I think when I started playing it, I was like, okay, this is a bit weird. Okay, there's a journey here. I like the aesthetic. I like the scene. And then certain things trigger certain things going on with side ahead, and you're thinking, right, okay, there's more to this, and there's like a history and a backstory. And I'm quite keen to see how it plays out. And obviously, I don't think it's mind blowing in terms of game, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm quite looking forward to playing. I'm quite enjoying playing a game that has a bit of depth to it, but it's not like stat overkill where like Destiny or something where you opening up and equipping it, changing equipment and things like that. This game doesn't even have an inventory system. It is just the game, go and play, and it's quite refreshing to play something like that.
yeah. Oh,
So
very good.
good. And then just a quick one. The other game we've been playing is The Messenger, which
Yeah,
is a 2D side scroller, 8-bit, very heavily inspired by games like Ninja Gaiden,
yeah,
Shinobi, and I'd probably say Shovel Knight as well in terms of the kind of humor that's in the game. It's quite tough. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. It's kind of got a really epic soundtrack that kind of throws back to when I
yeah,
used to play Ninja Gaiden on on the Game Gear and things like that. It's just a nice, quick, easy game to play. It's published by Devolver Digital, and the game isn't too difficult at the moment, but I hear it has quite a quite big difficulty spike later on. But no, quite good. That's I can't really say much more about that. If you like 2D games, it's not a Metroidvania or anything like that. It is literally a side scroller game like Shovel Knight and like all the old Ninja Gaiden games in the past. But you can literally pick that up, play it for a little bit, and then put it down and be quite
I've got it on
satisfied with that.
Steam. I have played The Messenger. To
Yeah.
be fair, not very much, but I think I got it when it came out. I think I want to say I bought it at launch. Actually, I think it was just like you say, like the music that kind of grabbed me, and I sort of played it a little bit. Sort of got the gist of the story, and again, sort of moved on to other things. But yeah, it's always been one of those where I've kind of looked at it in my library, and thought I really need to go back and play that, But
Yeah.
it's
It
it's
just
obviously
I
it's not a game that's going to be dated. It's not going to get old. I could play that game 10 years from now, and it'll
yeah,
still,
that's kind of the point, isn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
But it's just great how it has that kind of, the aesthetic, and when you hear the music when you start, you're like, oh, this is like kind of nostalgic from when I played, these type of games when I was a kid. So it's what I really liked about Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was a platformer game, but it had a 8-bit aesthetic, beautiful soundtrack, and that humor as well. That you wouldn't have had the humor in those games in the past, because they take themselves quite seriously. Because that was the best type of game. Whereas now with these indie studios taking on these titles and playing them, it's just they can do what they want with them and make it catchy. So I'm keen to see how that one plays out. So.
Oh, very good.
So we've spoken a heck of a lot about what we have been playing, of course. So I suppose now onto the news, really. So what have you got for us, Dan?
Not much, just a couple of things which I sort of noticed. I mean, the big news, that got me excited was Cyberpunk going gold. That was sort of good to see. It's now shippable. It's in a reviewable condition, so that's reassuring.
Yeah,
Obviously,
definitely coming.
we're not quite big enough as a podcast to expect review copies yet, but yeah, no, it's I'm happy for the studio. It's obviously been a long road for them, and 8 years in the making, and obviously they've had a few setbacks, and obviously this year is what it is to everybody, and despite all that, the finish line is in sight, so that's good.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I'm looking forward to seeing the success from them. I think they're expected from their financials that they're going to make, I think it was $500 million in net profit. So after all the costs of being taken in from the game development, they're going to be the game CD Projekt Red is going to make $500 million, which is crazy money. How much money they're going to be making on the back of that. So,
Yeah.
and of course, CD Projekt Red give 10% of their profits in bonuses to their employees. So those guys are going to be getting some nice paydays. So
yeah, no, and rightfully so. I think hopefully the game lives up to expectations, and it is.
No, I doubt it
It
will.
is what everybody wants it to be.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I saw was the Dreamcast Mini being teased. It is a teaser. There's no announcements as such. It's more of a rumor. But there was a little bit of a hint at the possible Dreamcast Mini coming out. Not in the near future. Be sort of at least a few years from now. I don't know if you saw anything about that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was quite keen about this because obviously they released the Mega Drive Mini or the Genesis Mini, wherever you are listening to this, and the Mega Drive Mini was widely considered the best micro console out there because of the attention to detail, the actual emulation of the games, and the quality of the games. They had, I think it was like 48 games on it, and 2 of those games had never been released anywhere. So it was like, some unique opportunities to play these games. So if Sega can take that level of polish and bring that to the console, that'd be great. What game for the Dreamcast would you particularly want to see on that console?
If I had to choose one, Shenmue, I think would be
Yeah.
the. I think I'd want to see Shenmue 1 and 2
Yeah.
on the Dreamcast. I think that'd be good.
Well, they're
Um,
such iconic games for for the system, aren't they? It's interesting because of course those games have recently all made HD remakes, or whether
yeah.
they will come into the console. But I think they're so iconic to the Dreamcast that you couldn't have the console without it. I don't think.
No, no. I probably I dare say it was might even be the face of the console. You know, the in terms of most memorable and well received games. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not a Dreamcast connoisseur. I had one and played it a little bit, but I mean, it was always kind of nested behind the N64 and the PlayStation, I'm afraid.
yeah,
But no, I thought it was cool that was sort of a kind of it is sort of teased as being sort of a possible next project.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Um,
good. Hopefully we'll see something from that in the future. And I know I'd be quite keen to see some of the games on there. It's not going to have my favorite Dreamcast game, which is Fantasy Star Online, because there's no way they're going to make it online playable console. But
yeah.
we can dream. We can dream. I'd be quite happy as long as I get Soul Calibur on there. I'll be very happy with that.
Indeed.
Or Crazy Taxi with the original soundtrack. That will be superb.
Now saying that actually, yeah, that must be my most played game on Dreamcast because it wasn't
Yeah.
on PlayStation or N64. Um,
No, and
yeah,
they re-released like a HD version of Crazy Taxi on PS3 and Xbox
yeah,
360. I
they did.
think, and
Yeah,
the soundtrack had just been completely
gutted.
butchered because
Yeah,
of all the licensing issues. So
yeah,
if they can re-release the original game without, hopefully we might be able to see that game come back with the original soundtrack.
yeah.
That'd be pretty
Blimey.
sweet if they
Yeah.
could.
In fact, like on reflection, I hadn't even really associated Crazy Taxi with the Dreamcast, but that is the one game that I must have played more than anything on
Yeah,
Dreamcast. Yeah, because I remember like the soundtrack was it was sort of almost very like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, wasn't it? You know, like Sum 41 and Offspring, like those kind of bands on there.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it was just a stupid game with an amazing soundtrack. It was
yeah,
just stupid fun. And
yeah,
sometimes games can be super serious, but sometimes you just need a bit of stupid fun. And it just that game it was just great to play.
yeah. It's good. It's really
So
good.
fingers crossed we'll hear soon. From what the articles I read, they did mention that it was probably going to be a couple of years before we hear anything about that. So, but fingers crossed. I'd probably pick one up day one, I reckon. So.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think I think it's cool the consoles are coming back, but I think a day one purchase for me it would only be the N64.
N64 one, yeah.
Yeah,
But it'll be interesting to see how they all manage the 3D graphics because obviously the PlayStation Classic came out and Sony botched the launch of that by including random a mixture of NSTC and PAL ROMs. So some ran at 50 hertz and some ran at 60 hertz, which is a bit bizarre. But the 3D games, when they're blown up to a massive HD TV, don't look that good. Or 4K telly, they just don't look great. Obviously, with the HDMI port, it can deal with some of the scaling issues rather than plugging a SCART cable in the back of a 4K telly and seeing what happens. So you can't see anything. It was a bit sad actually. I went to there's the gaming museum in Bradford, so they've got the media museum and they've got like a section dedicated to all retro games,
yeah,
and you
I've
can
been
kind
to
of
it.
go
Yeah,
around the room and see them. And what was really disappointing was the N64 section because I went and they had GoldenEye playing. I thought this would be really exciting to give this a go. I've not played this game since I was just a wee snapper, and I jumped on and had a go at it. But they just plugged a SCART cable into a massive HD TV, so it was just like a watercolor painting. You couldn't see anything, and it was a shame that they hadn't put it onto like a CRT TV or something like that to get the right resolution and how it should be played. I think that was kind of quite a poor omission considering they class themselves as a video game museum and they can't even get the games running on
mm.
old, like the way they're meant to be played.
Yeah. Because I think
So,
when I went along, they had like a SNES setup with like Mario Kart, and they had like an arcade machine and stuff.
mm,
But Yeah, no, I sort of enjoyed like just the sort of the exhibit, if you like, sort of just the way they'd sort of set it all out, and they had like the retro cubes on the floor,
Yeah.
the Mario squares and stuff.
I think as time goes on, and there are going to be more of these museums popping up of old games, and they'll probably be able to do them really well, and give authentic experiences to how those games are played, and what those consoles look like. But yeah, it's the PlayStation Classic suffered when it came out for other issues, but playing some of those 3D graphic games with the jagged edges, they don't look great. So hopefully, if Sega do this, or even God forbid Nintendo do that as well with a mini N64, they manage to actually do better with some of those issues. And also as well, the PlayStation Classic was originally selling for £80, which was just obscene for the price for what they were offering. So
yeah.
fingers crossed, we shall see.
Mm.
But speaking of PlayStation, obviously this week we've had the teardown, so we now know what the PlayStation 5 looks like on the inside. It's had its autopsy,
Oh yes.
so to speak. Did you have a look? Did you see this?
Of course.
Yeah. What did you think when you saw it?
I found it really relaxing watching it. I thought
Yeah.
that's how you do a teardown. Like you see like a lot of YouTubers and it's like this really energetic, like, hey guys, oh, it's so great to see you. Blah, it's like, oh, shut up. It's like, let's see
Yeah.
the console, But no, it's in Japanese, it was just very professional, just took each part, gently out of the console, placed it in a nice, sort of display in front of the camera. But no, I thought it was really informative, showed all the parts of the console, explained
Yep.
the decision making. I thought the two sort of really cool things that stood out to me was the sort of built-in dust captures where you can
I knew you were going
basically
to say that.
vacuum out the dust. Oh,
That was really
I'm
clever, actually.
I'm gonna that's gonna be like a massage for me. Like the first time I take the dust out of the PlayStation with a vacuum. It's just gonna I'm not gonna make the sort of vacuum suction noise over the headset for the benefit of people listening. But do you know what I mean?
It's okay, Dan. We've already got an explicit rating on our podcast when it goes live. So.
Well, I won't be the contributor to that. That's on your head. But yeah, no, I thought that was really good. That's the thing I despise most in PCs is how they sort of gather dust and you can see it forming on the inside of your case and you got to get compressed air or whatever to clean them. But yeah, it sort of seems like with the PlayStation they've thought of that, and it's it's going to be really easy to keep it nice and clean and consequently keep the console running nice and cool.
Yeah.
I thought that looked good, and I thought the stand was so innovative. It was so well designed. It's just a really interesting display of engineering. That how they've got that kind of screw-in sort of base, and then when you lay the console horizontally, you can take the stand out, obviously, to lay it down, and there's a little sort of kind of like hidey hole in the stand where you can hide the screw. You put the screw in there, and then there's like a little sort of black concealable cap that you basically plug into the screw hole of the PlayStation, and it's basically like you can't even see it anymore. So it's I thought it was quite sort of innovative. You can see it's made with care, like they've thought about it, which I thought was good.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old PlayStation 2 stands. I mean, we've not had a stand for a console, official stand, since the PlayStation 2, I don't think. And that looked really good, how you could stand it up firm right, and then it would have the bits that go out from the side to make sure it didn't get knocked over. It just gives you more options, so it's nice that it's actually built with the console. You can just swap it around. So one thing that stuck out to me with the PlayStation 5 teardown was the clear focus they've had on cooling.
Yes.
I'm trying to keep that bad boy as cool as possible, because one of the concern, and quiet, that's the thing, because you could always have, like the PS4 does, it has a small fan, but when you're playing something that's quite engaging on the CPU, well, you can hear that PS4 all the way upstairs. It sounds like a jet engine.
Required.
Whereas this game, there's a clear focus on not only is it going to be cool enough, but because the fan is going to be, and the heat sink is massive as well, there's a clear focus on trying to keep this thing as cool as possible when playing like really demanding games. And that probably explains the size of the console as well, because when you're watching the video, the guy taking apart this console, it kind of showed you how big it was. The console, there's no doubt about it, the console now is massive. It is a huge console, but clearly they've made that decision, a conscious decision, to make it as cool as possible. And you know what? I would rather have a console that is big than one that is small and noisy with all the fan and overheating and things like that. So any day of the week.
Yeah.
Not long now though until we can get that in our hands. What is it now? We're getting ever so closer, literally 6 weeks away until the PS5 is out. So okay, so should we move on to some questions from the audience?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, okay. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can reach out to me or Dan on Twitter if you want to be included in the show. You got any questions? You want to grill us on anything? We want to hear it. So Rob Sweeten did just that in his messages and said, it seems like both of you game primarily on the PC. So how much time do you think you'll dedicate to the new consoles? So what do you got to say to this, Dan?
Ooh, until until I upgrade my PC, probably more time on the console than on the PC.
Okay.
I think. I guess it depends. The dilemma I think I'm going to have is if the games are going to run better on the PlayStation, then I'll probably get them on there. But when I upgrade and eventually get, I don't know, a 3090 or whatever it might be, and my PC then kind of eclipses the PlayStation, then I'll probably go back to playing sort of more PC games. But it just depends on the games. I don't think I'll really have a favored platform. It's just I'll have, obviously we talked earlier about Miles Morales and Cyberpunk and, all of the other games coming out on the PlayStation throughout the year. I can only be in one place at one time. So
Yeah.
I think the strength of the games will determine where I am. And obviously the PlayStation has a very good first year. So I can imagine, probably more on the PlayStation than on the PC. And as we move forward, we'll see how that changes.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I think with me, if you asked me maybe 6 months ago, would I even be getting a new Xbox Series X? My answer would have been no, because at the time, of course, Microsoft has been pushing this console PC agnostic approach where all their first party games are going to be coming to both of them. But obviously in those 6 months, my priorities have changed, and my priority now is I was going to be getting a new console, new Xbox One X, so I could play games with my partner. So now I'm not going to buy a new One X. It makes more logical sense to get the new console rather than buying an old console when they come out. So with that in mind, I've now got the Xbox. I'm going to be getting the Xbox Series X. That's pre-ordered. With PC, I did used to play a lot more on PC, but as I've started working from home with all this coronavirus nonsense and things like that going on, I don't really want to be staying in my office more than I have to. I like the idea of switching off my PC at the end of the day and leaving my office and not returning back to the next day. There are certain games that I'll still play on PC, like I've got Wasteland 3 installed on the PC, so I'm looking forward to playing that at some point.
Yeah, I think that's what I've found. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. No. In terms of like being able to just get away from the office, it makes it's such a massive difference. And of course, you've now found with your, with the having the recliner chair and whatnot, just being able to. There's certain games that feel better just being able to chill out and relax to. You sit back on the sofa, you put it on the big screen, and you play it through there. And there are going to be games where they are going to be multi-platform, and I know that my PC will play it probably better than what I can get on the Series X. However, I'm sat in an office chair, I'm on a smaller screen. Sometimes it makes more sense just to play it at a lower frame rate, but you could sit and kick back on the sofa and just chill out. It's a different experience. It's why people go to the cinema to watch a film rather than sitting and watching it on Netflix.
I think if I wasn't working at home and I was coming home to, game, it wouldn't make a difference to me whether or not I'm downstairs playing on a big TV or I'm upstairs playing on a PC monitor. I think
Yeah.
I think deep down, I prefer PC gaming. Like I prefer the variety. I like having. I love playing with a mouse and keyboard. That's my preference for a lot of games. There's some games obviously where controller takes over and the best experience is there, but I think you sort of hit the nail on the head that working all day on your sort of on a computer and then ending your work day and then playing games on the computer, it's like you've sat in the same place all day, and that
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate at first how much of an impact that was having on me.
Hmm.
But when I sort of enhanced the sort of the gaming space downstairs and put the chair in and got the sort of the room set up and made more comfortable, it's been a really sort of welcome escape, going down there and playing some God of War or playing a little bit of Spider-Man or whatever it might be, but just having somewhere to go to relax and escape was kind of the missing ingredient in this kind of working from home routine. So
Yeah, and definitely. And I think as well as my PC gaming time being a casualty of working from home, I'll probably say my Nintendo Switch has been the biggest casualty. I obviously commuting to work, being in the office and taking a going on my lunch break. Primarily, I would have the Switch in my bag and I'd use that commuting time and that to do my gaming. But obviously, since working from home, my Switch has been uh, not getting much action. Actually, it's not been used. It's been literally sat under my TV, plugged in, and not doing anything. So we'll see. I do feel a bit bad every time I walk past it, and it's just sat there gathering a bit of dust. So I might pick that up and play it soonish. But it's interesting how your work situation, how when that changes, how you look at your downtime and how you separate your work life from your personal life. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
it's
it,
important to have
it
a
is really important.
separation. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You want to be able to live. Otherwise, you just be you before you realize it, you just sat in the same room all day and all night. And before you realize it, it kind of starts becoming a bit like Groundhog Day. So
yeah, yeah. No,
whatever it is.
absolutely. So yeah, that was a good question. But yeah, I think PlayStation definitely, and then maybe as life outside returns to normal once I'm sort of working outside the home again, then maybe the pendulum will swing the other way and it'll be more on the PC. But um, yeah, so
Yeah,
I sort of feel like you know all of the circumstances not accounted for. It's just the strength of the games. What games am I playing? And obviously the PlayStation for me is going to be the new shiny toy, and the new shiny games are going to be on there. So that's going to
yeah.
be where I'm going to primarily spend my time, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's obviously we're looking. Rob sneakily got another question in there, which I think we've kind of answered already. But seeing as it's Rob's first question on the show, we'll go through both of them. And the second question he asked was, "Will you both? Will you be both getting the new consoles, or will you choose one or the other?"
Um, I sort of unintentionally became a bit of, bit of a PS5 fanboy. So, um, I we've sort of discussed this a little bit, on previous episodes, but for me personally, it just I don't feel any affinity to either console. It's just where are the games? Where are the games that I want to play? And if
Yeah,
that's on the Switch, then I'll play them on the Switch. If it's on the Xbox, Series X or the PlayStation 5, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not in a position where I can really afford to buy both at launch, so I kind of have to choose. And you know, throwing out which throwing out the names of the consoles and just looking at the games that are available, it's the PlayStation lineup that attracts me. So
yeah,
I certainly say I will get both. I'm certainly not narrow-minded enough to say like, oh, I'm only getting one console, and to hell with Xbox. And I think you can't be that narrow-minded. Like gaming is gaming; it doesn't matter what console it's on.
Hmm.
There's great games on both platforms, and okay, at launch, I don't think there's any games I want to play on the Xbox, but hell yeah, there's going to be games coming out on it that I want to play. If certainly if Bethesda games or the acquisition of ZeniMax and Bethesda, obviously as a result of that, their library goes to Microsoft. If they're exclusive to PlayStation or rather to Xbox, then of course, I'd love to play the new Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Um, and hopefully, the acquisition of studios. How many have they bought? Is it something like 9, or they've invested in a lot of studios over the last couple of years, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
If they start getting a return on that investment, and these studios start producing, first party exclusives, games that I can only play on Xbox, I can't play them anywhere else, then I'm yeah, absolutely going to get an Xbox, but sadly, not at launch. Not this. Well, I haven't got an Xbox at launch since the 360. So,
Yeah. No, definitely, and I think we've mentioned it a few times that I was going to be all in on PlayStation 5 on day one.
but you're a
I'm not going to be.
traitor.
Well, no, I'm not going to get it on. I'm not going to get it at launch. But I think for me, when Horizon Forbidden West comes out, that will be my cue to get the new console. There's nothing on the PS5 launch that I'm really excited about, and Spider-Man's the big one for me, Miles Morales. But in the same situation, I've got to pick one of these two consoles, and being able to play with on the console in the what word am I looking for? In the ecosystem where I know I've got other people that are ready to play those games with me, it makes more sense to jump on the Series X, and because there's so much content such a good load of backlog games to get through that I'll be able to play on there. So I'm looking forward to getting the Series X, and I'm looking forward to getting the PlayStation 5. Hopefully, I'm assuming that Horizon Forbidden West will be coming out in April next year. So if when that happens, I'll be getting a PS5. Hopefully, there'll be a different color PlayStation 5 because I'm not digging that white at all. I'd love. Obviously, these side panels look like they
Come
can be
off.
taken off.
Well, then
Hopefully, we
you
can
can
get.
take them off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It looks like you can take them off, so hopefully we can get a black version. I'll be really happy with
Well,
that.
I honestly think that it's a very real possibility that they are going to sell variations of those panels.
Yeah. Can you
I
remember
mean,
the 360 used to do that? The
the
original.
faceplate?
Yeah, and you can
Yeah,
get all different types and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And there was some that the PlayStation 4 had some, but they weren't half as many as were 360. So it'd be quite a nice thing where you can just almost like get a little customization. I tell you what, obviously, one thing that Xbox does or Microsoft does miles better than PlayStation in general is the design labs where you can obviously customize your own controller and get one built from scratch. Wouldn't it be great if PlayStation had a similar thing where you could actually get faceplates for the console and you could pick and choose and make and design your own ones and really customize your console to make it your own? That'd be a really
Yeah.
nice addition, I
I,
think.
I honestly think though, if PlayStation don't do it, people still will.
Yeah,
I can imagine
definitely.
on Etsy and these kind of artistic websites where you can purchase whatever. There's absolutely no doubt people are going to start customizing PS5 panels and you know implementing various designs, if not officially, then unofficially. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know what the I mean. Obviously, there's the we talked about the sort of the dust removal system that the PlayStation has, and it looks like you've got to take the panels off to do that.
Hmm.
So it's obviously not a complex. It's not like you've got to get your hands dirty, sort of unscrewing the console and breaking into the system. It's just simply a case of twist and
It just
slide.
unclips, doesn't
Yeah,
it? It's not like you
slide
need a
the panel off.
screwdriver or any
Yeah,
tools. Just
yeah. It's just
pull it off, yeah.
yeah. You just basically pull it off. So, um, yeah. I don't know I don't know whether or not PlayStation have any long-term plans or other ideas behind why that's a thing, other than just being able to access the dust system. But if they do, I think that would be certainly a well-seized opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, but it does beg the question, doesn't it, about whether or not there's long-term plans for different colours of the console? Because if
Mm.
if the main sort of, I mean, the colour of the console is primarily these panels, isn't it? I mean, obviously they could change the, the sort of the central sort of core part of the console, I guess, but for all intents and purposes, it's the panels which bring out the that's what you notice, isn't it, when you look at the PlayStation 5?
Yeah,
So
and I think that they'll definitely do that. I mean, they'll definitely they'll definitely do like limited edition versions of the consoles. I mean,
oh
PlayStation have
yeah, yeah,
historically done these, and they've also, as technology becomes cheaper over time, and the components of the console become cheaper, they can then trim them down and make them smaller, and you get new versions of the PlayStation, like a slim version, or they've done it with every console, and of course they're going to do it with this as well. But whether they keep it the same size to be able to use those fans and keep them the same, and whether you can customize and change it. I mean, obviously the 360 when it first came out, you could do that. You could also do that with the Xbox 360 Elite, but then of course they brought out the slimline consoles and they
yeah.
took that option away. So you can customize the front. So we'll see.
Mm.
But I'll be quite keen to see if you can get new side panels for that thing. So
Yeah, but for now it's a white console. So
yeah, for now. So, but no, thanks for your questions, Rob. That was there were some good, insightful questions. And if you would like to be part of the show, like I said, you can message me on Twitter at Metroidvania, or you can message Dan at TatchND. That's TATCHND. Drop us any messages. Leave us some nice reviews on podcast services of your choice. It really helps us when you leave a review. Other people can see whether you're enjoying the content, and me and Dan want to hear your feedback as well. If there's anything that you think works well for the show, things you want to hear more of, things that you don't want to hear more of, let us know.
yeah, I mean, feedback's critical. I mean, we had one sort of feedback about audio levels, and I think that helps us adjust things. So any feedback, positive or negative, is any feedback is good feedback. So
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, I remember that. So Dan, any closing comments?
no, see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. Take care.